Hi everybody, here is your review. This is part 1. Part 1 will cover everything but equations. So it'll cover graphing, it'll cover evaluating, rewriting, and some of the modeling. And I wanted to save equations for the second video because that's the harder part. So if you're okay with this part, just make sure that you do look for the secret message in here because you never know when it's going to come up. Alright, first part is rewriting logs to exponential. If you look here, we have a log. This is an exponential. So make sure that you look at each piece separately. So this is your base. It's the same base for the exponential. The y will become your power. And then the x that's next to the base will become the answer. So just watch how you're rewriting. So if you look at the first one, 10 is my base. -2 becomes my exponent. That's why I always draw that arrow to show that that's the new power. And then 1 over 100. That's it. That's all you have to do. Number 2, 3 to the 5th is 243. Now the next one, you have to make sure that you change it to log base e of 1 equals 0, because ln, and you should remember this, ln is the same thing as log base e. They're the same thing. And they can interchange back and forth to each other. Meaning that the answer to this one will be e to the 0 equals 1. And the last one will be 8 to the 2/3 equals 4. So that's that section. Now the next section works backwards. It goes from exponential to log. So what happens is our same base from our exponential becomes our log base. Our power now becomes our answer. And then the x value goes next to the log. So now when you look at each piece, the first thing that you should always do is write log. Get that out the way when you're rewriting. Then the next thing you want to do is look for your base. So in this case, it's 36. That goes underneath here. In this case, it's base e. In this case, it's again base e. And then in the last one, it's 1 over 9. You don't need the parentheses. Now the next thing you're going to look for is the y part, because that's going to become your answer. And we're going to put that in the next space. So in this case, the exponent becomes the answer. So it'll be equal to 3/2. In this case, it'll be equal to -1. In this case, it'll be equal to 3. And in the last one, it'll be equal to -2. Which leaves us with what goes next to the base. What goes next to the base is the answer from the exponent. So that means 216 will now go here. Notice all I did was switch these two around. The 0.368 goes here. Notice that I just switched these two around. The 20.1 goes here. Notice again that I just switched these two around. And last but not least, the 81 goes there. So notice again that I just switched those two around. This is very important when you have to rewrite in the equation section. Alright, now to the next part. In this section, there's 2 ways that you can do it. Being that you are going to have to do this for multiple choice, and multiple choice is no work has to be shown, you can do it in one of 2 ways. You can set it up as 8 to the x equals 8. And that means that 8 to the 1 is 8, so that means that x equals 1. You can do this as 2 to the x equals 32, which is 2 to the x is 2 to the 5th power, good. Meaning that that answer is 5. Now let's say you wanted to do this in your calculator. If you do this in your calculator, you can just put it in the change of base formula. Log of 225 over log of 15. This is another way of doing it. So now when you put it into your calculator, you put it in as log of 225 divided by log of 15, enter, and you'll see that the answer is just simply 2. So 2 ways of doing the same thing. You can do change of base again. So just put that into your calculator. Log of 1 over 64 divided by log of 8 is equal to -2. So the answer to that one is -2. So whichever way you do it is fine. Now looking at number 13, if we do it on this side using by work, because some people like to show work, you have 27 to the x equals 3. There is no base of 27 that will ever give you 3, so you can change 27 to 3 cubed, because that's the same thing. Putting the x on the outside, 3 to the power of 1 will give you 3 back. So now that you have the same bases, you can cancel out bases. Ooh, sorry about that. And you can set the exponents equal to each other. And you wind up getting 1/3. Now you can also do the change of base, because like I said, some people like to show work, some people like to do something different. So what you could do is log of 8 over log of 4 and put that in your calculator. And you'll see you get 1.5. Now, what if 1.5 was not a choice? Then you'd have to remember to change 1.5 to a fraction. So make sure you do math, enter, enter, so you can get your fraction. Alright, the next one you can just put into your calculator because it's base 10. So you can just put in log of 100 into your calculator. And you wind up getting 2. And the last one, if you want to do it by hand, you can get a base of 3 for both of them. And this would be 3 to the -1. So 2x equals -1. Divide by 2, you get -1/2. Or if you decide to do change of base, just do log of 1/3 over log of 9. Always put the log of the base second. So log of 1/3 over log of 9. And you get -0.5, which, if you press math, enter, enter, is -1/2. Alright, that concludes that section. Now for the easy section, it says use your calculator. I'm not going to go through a whole process on that. I'm just going to give you the answers to those because it's calculator based. So first one is 8.317, but it should be 318. Make sure you pay attention to what this says, 3 decimal places. Okay, next one, the log of 14 is 1.146. And the last one, 7 times the log of 45, is 11.572. Alright, now for graphing. Remember for graphing that you have to have everything into the change of base formula. So the first thing that we're going to do is put this into change of base which would be log of x minus 2 over the log of 3. Remember, the log of base should always be in the bottom. Next thing you should always remember to do is take what's in the parentheses and set it equal to 0. That is your asymptote. So that is this answer right here. Now, I always like to draw my asymptote first just to get it out of the way. So you're going to count 1, 2 to the right. And just draw either a dotted line or a line with your highlighter. The highlighter always makes it look so neat. So always label your asymptote. This is x equals 2. Alright, the next thing you're going to do is go into your table of values in your calculator and try to get 3 numbers that don't have any decimals. So I'm going to go to my y equals and put in log of x minus 2 divided by, and make sure you don't have this extra parenthesis like I have. Divided by the log of 3. Secondly, you always want to put 0 because we might have to find the x-intercept later. Now press graph. Ooh, I've got somebody else's graph here. I'll get rid of those things in a second. Little boxes from Algebra 1. So if you ever get weird things like that, just go to stat plot and turn off your stat plot. Alright, so that's your graph. Remember, your calculator lies, so you want to make sure that you graph everything. So go to your second graph and we'll pick some numbers. Usually the last error message that you see is the asymptote. So you'll know if you did the asymptote right if you see the first error message there. So we have 3, 0, 5, 1, and it looks like 11, 2. So I'm going to plot those points. So since your calculator lies, just make sure you continue this all the way down, and there is your log graph. So now remember, your domain goes from left to right. So we're going to say that our domain is 2 to infinity. Your range goes from bottom up, so that goes from negative infinity to infinity. Your x-intercept, so that goes down to up. Your x-intercept is going to be when y equals 0. Well, that's this value right here. So that's your x-intercept. Your y-intercept is when x equals 0. Well, if you look at your table, you'll see that it's never ever going to happen because there's an error message there. And plus x equals 0, there's nothing that can happen there. So we will say that there is none. And that's it. Alright, the next graphing is an ln graph. So what you want to do is when you don't have parentheses, you want to create your own parentheses. So you want to put parentheses around anything that does not have parentheses around it that should, like the x. Because remember I told you that for asymptote, you're actually going to set what's in the parentheses equal to 0. Well, since 3 is not in the parentheses, you're only going to set x equal to 0. So that winds up being your asymptote. So remember I told you, try to get that done first. and try to label it. Alright, the next thing you want to do is get your table values. So when you put this into your calculator, just put it as ln, x is in the parentheses, plus 3. And press graph so you can see what the graph looks like. Then you're actually going to go to your second graph and look at your table. We don't really have too many numbers on here that have no decimals. Actually, we probably don't have any besides 1, 3. So when you don't have any numbers that aren't decimals, just use the first 3 numbers. So 1, 3, 2 and 3.7, and 3 and 4.1. So 1, 3, 2 and 3.7, and 3 and 4.1. Remember, your calculator lies, so you want to make sure that you go all the way down. So now look left to right. Alright, so look left to right. You see that your domain is going to go from 0 to infinity. And then looking down and up, your range goes all real numbers. X-intercept I'll do for you in a second. Y-intercept is when x equals 0. And that never happens. So that means that your y-intercept is none. Alright, the x-intercept you know that you're going to use your calculator for. Make sure that your second y equals has a 0, because it won't work if you don't have that 0. Then you're going to go to second trace, number 5. As you can see, I can't see my blinker yet, so I'm going to go to the right until I see my blinker. And then I want to try to get as close to the axis as possible without it disappearing, because it disappears. So I'm going to put it right there and press enter 3 times. And here it is. It's at 0.0497, so I'm going to round it to 0.04050. Remember, your x-intercept is when y equals 0, and it doesn't show up in your table. Alright, there goes the graphing. Alright, we have some scratching noise, and I don't know how to get rid of it. And it just keeps going, so hopefully you can still hear me as I try to work with this a little bit. But if you still hear a scratching noise, I apologize. Just trying to get this to kind of stop. Alright, so if you still hear the scratching noise, I'm sorry. It sounds like there's wind in here. Hello? But I don't know how to get rid of it. Okay. So the last part of this video is going to be on modeling, and you have to know how to decipher which modeling you should do. So your first test should be to divide from right to left. That's your test. Don't start with subtracting, because sometimes subtracting can be deceiving. So if you divide, you'll know right away if it's exponential. So in the first one, I'm going to divide 16 divided by 4. That's equal to 4. Then if you divide 64 divided by 16, that's 4. If you do 256 divided by 64, that's 4. If you do 1024 divided by 256, that's 4. So since all of the answers wind up being 4. After dividing, that's exponential. Now you do need to get an answer for the last one, because you can't put something in your table with a 6 without an answer. So to get that answer, just multiply by 4, and it is 4,096. So now, once you get your answer that it's exponential, you go to your calculator, go to your stat edit. Now if you ever want to clear things in your table, just press clear enter. Never press delete, because it'll delete the whole entire table. So now you put your numbers in. And then you just press stat, calc, and then you can just press the number 0 and press enter, and that gives you your answer. So the function for this exponential function is y equals 1 times 4 to the x. And that's it. So now to find, and don't forget your y equals, because I will take off points if you forget that. The last thing is to do f of 8. So that's 1 times 4 to the 8th. And you can just put that in your calculator. And you find out that it's 65,536. So that's how you can tell if it's exponential. Now, if I decide to check the next one, I can do 20 divided by 15, which is 1.333. 25 divided by 20 is 1.25. So number 23 cannot possibly be exponential. So because it cannot be exponential, I am going to subtract. So 20 minus 15 is 5. 25 minus 20 is 5. 30 minus 25 is 5. 35 minus 30 is 5. So this is called first differences. If the first differences are all the same, as was evidenced here, this is going to be a linear function. Okay, so this is a linear model. So now what you're going to do is go back to your stat edit and put these numbers in. Make sure you did fill in the last one as 40, because if you try to put 6 in your calculator without the 40, it won't work. Next, you're going to press stat, calc, and linreg, ax plus b is the linear regression. Press enter, and you see that it has a 5 and a 10. So that equation is 5x plus 10. Okay, because the equation is ax plus b, so that's 5x plus 10. Now we're just going to replace 10 in for x, and our answer to that one is 60. Alright, the next one, I want you to pay close attention, because it's the top that's growing. Since the top is growing, most likely this is going to be an inverse function. There are a few inverse functions. One inverse function is a radical. Another inverse function is a log. And those are the main inverse functions that we've worked with this year. So if you notice that the top is growing in a certain way, then you know that it's going to be an inverse function. So if we look here, I know that I'm going to start by dividing first, because that's why I said first. Divide from right to left to see. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 16 divided by 8 is 2. 32 divided by 16 is 2. And 64 divided by 32 is 2. So that means that I got 2 all the same from dividing. So when you divide and they're all the same, that's exponential. But since this is on the top, this is what's called an inverse exponential. Well, an inverse exponential is called a log. Or as I like for you to write it, logarithmic. Alright, so now you know your calculator doesn't have a logarithmic regression. So you're going to go into your stat edit. Your x values will be the ones from the bottom, and your y values will be the ones from the top, because we're going to switch it back later. So put in 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. Now we go to stat calc. You have to go to exponential, and you wind up getting y equals 1 times 2 to the x. First step in getting our log equation is to switch the x and the y. Second step is to drop the 1. You don't need the 1 because the 1 is a coefficient, which means we'll still get the same answer. And then the last step is to remember your rules of changing things from exponential to log. The b here represents 2. So I'm going to put log 2. The y here is the same y that's there, so that becomes my answer. And the x that's here is the same x that's here, so that goes right after the log. So my equation is y equals log base 2x. That's the function. So remember, get the exponential, switch the x and the y, because remember we switched them here, and then rewrite it as a log. Okay, last step will be to find the log base 2 of 512, which means you're going to place it into your calculator with change of base, like we did in the beginning. Log 512 divided by log 2 gives you 9. Okay, a lot going on, but hopefully you'll understand. Alright, so we got one more exponential to do, and that is the word problem. Make sure that you read the word problems. 9 times out of 10, the word problem will say, write an exponential, which means you won't have to do anything else but find the exponential, okay? So you're going to go to your stat edit. Put the numbers from the table into your stat edit. Then you're going to go to Stat, Calc, 0, and that gives you your equation. Make sure that you round to 3 decimal places. 3 decimal places. Notice how I rounded up. There was a 593 and then it said 6, so I rounded up. And then it was 1246, so I rounded up again. Make sure that you round up. If you forget to round up, your answer will look a little bit different than mine. Alright, so we started in the year 1950. They want us to know about the year 2000, so the first thing that you should do is 2000 minus 1950, which is 50 years. That equals x. So now I'm just going to replace the x with 50. And when you put that in, you get 75,323 cranes. Please remember, these are living creatures. Cranes, even a crane, like a regular crane from construction, those are objects, and you can't have pieces of objects and living things. So please make sure that you take away the decimal. Don't round up. Just take away the decimal and write that answer down. Alright, the last one on this page says write an exponential function. So they're telling you what to do. So you should automatically know this is StatCalc 0. So both of these problems, 40 and 41, are StatCalc 0. Alright, so what you're going to do first is make a t-table with 1 and 4, 3 and 100. And then you'll go to your calculator, go to your stat edit. If you want to clear the information that you have, press clear enter. Never, ever, ever press delete because you'll lose everything, including the table headings. So you put them in, go to StatCalc 0. And you have your exponential function. Now, if you want to be nice, you can change that 0.8 to a fraction, but you won't have to, because most likely this will be a multiple choice. So you'll have to look at the multiple choice to decide what to do. Alright guys, so look somewhere in this video. I'm not putting it on the last page, but look somewhere in this video for the secret message. Look, here it is. Here's the question. Okay, but I'm going to move. Ha ha. So you don't know what page it was on. Ha ha. Alright, so there was a question on there. Hopefully you could figure it out. I have a few answers to that question. So just as long as you write the question and come up with an answer that you think would be best, you will get 5 points. Look at that. 5 points towards your 10-point homework grade. Alright. Adios. Good luck.